Okay. Kick it off, brother.
Let's go, man.
What are we doing here? Who we got here today?
We got our brother, Bilaal Evans. You know, one of the greats, man. Been doing a lot of work in Englewood and throughout Chicago. Originally from the west side of Chicago, even though he don't like to claim it, the Henry Horner Project. Man, he moved to Englewood. And actually, man, I don't want to tell your whole story. I know so much about you. I could go on for so long, man. But let's hear from you, man. So, what brought you here today, man?
Y'all did.
Right.
Y'all called me through to do this podcast, and I showed up.
Okay. So you know what was interesting? I told Peter, I said we got to have Bilaal. A lot of people see you around. They know about the work you do today. But let's start, man, with your what got you involved in the work.
I grew up I'm initially, like he said, I'm initially from the west side. I grew up in the Henry Horner projects. My family was one of the first families that was in that project from the first time it got built. And so I have a history of cousins, uncles that have died in them buildings, you know, during the gang wars and the different conflicts that go on in the street. I can say up to 2021, I lost over 26 cousins in the Henry Horner Projects. I left the Henry Horner Projects when I was 11, moved out south to the south side, Englewood, 64th and Bishop. And for a long time, I didn't really want to embrace the new community, so I would get on that Ashland bus every day after school and go right back out west. But eventually I started hanging out in the neighborhood, and I liked it. And I, made my bones there, as they say, in Englewood.
Now, did you grow up in the kind of the street life, so to speak?
Yes, sir. I mean, it was all I knew. I come from a family that's a prison culture. All my uncles, all my older cousins, everybody. And I hate to say it, but the majority of them went to prison for murder. And so that was the life that we lived. And that's what I saw at their knees, and so I just followed the tradition in a sense.
Yeah, you said you lost a lot of cousins. Was that the 1990s, 1980s? When
80s,
was that?
80s and the mid to late 80s and the early 90s.
Yeah, that was
up until now, though, because I still have cousins. Although the majority of the buildings tore down, because of the families that had roots there, they allowed them to get apartments, and so some of my aunties and uncles still live over there in that same area. And so today they still do the same things that they did in those early days, and so they still dying.
Why is it so much a part of like your whole family background? Is it because they couldn't see other ways? They didn't have other ideas about things they could do, and jobs were not accessible? Or like, why is it that, uncles, as you say, uncles?
I don't know. I mean, I think that the problem really is that when you think about trauma bonding, people somehow feel that their experiences are different from other communities, and that we actually suffer from the same traumas, and we can't. And the problem is that because we feel our trauma is different, that creates the conflict. We can't identify what's hurting us, and we know that they hurting too, but we feel like us stepping into their sphere or them stepping into our sphere is a challenge. And so that's why the cycle of violence continues. Jobs, hopelessness, lack of education, because, on the west side, the majority of my cousins, if they make it, they barely make it to high school. So
a lot of them died as teenagers or even younger. Yes,
there was a book that was written called "There Are No Children Here."
I know it.
And the young man Lafayette, who they story talk about, he mentions his best friend Birdleg in that book. That's one of my first cousins that was killed in the Henry Horner Projects at 16.
Yeah.
So, again,
Alex Kotlowitz wrote that book.
Yes.
I know his name. I know him. So this idea of breaking the cycle, like you say, you were talking about, can you break a cycle? That's a lot of what your work is, right?
No doubt.
Talk a little bit about Restorative Project. And
Well, Restorative Project is a community-based organization. Our mission is to change the way young people deal with trauma. So we create safer neighborhoods by instituting different modalities such as cognitive behavior intervention, job training, youth mentorship. You know, to try to steer the young men and women away from those same traumas that we're talking about now into a more positive way of thinking and in a positive way of living.
how's it going?
I can say it's going real. It's going good. It's and as we all know, it's a lot of work to be done. So it's day by day.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you the numbers. You know this, Ali. The numbers have gotten a lot better since COVID. COVID was bad,
Yeah.
and then before COVID, it shot up way up in 2016, which is the year a lot of us got into it. Arnie started Cred, and Tenny started IMVC, and some of the there'd be people were doing it beforehand, like Cure Violence and others. But how long have you been at this work?
Man, I was a part of Cure Violence before it was ceasefire. So I've been in it since 2009. Yeah, I came home from prison in 2007, and shortly thereafter, I started to work with the different community organizations.
How long were you in prison?
15 years from the time I was 18 into 33. So
Let's go back. I just take it back a little bit when you say you went to prison. You want to speak about how that actually occurred?
well, in all honesty, and I talk about this a lot. In my neighborhood, I was considered like the person that the police are always chasing, always trying to catch. To be honest with you, I did a lot of more fighting than I did shooting. And I used to get into it with the young guys, and we'd meet up at the park, and I'd say, man, put them pistols down and let's box. And a lot of them didn't want to do that. So I had a lot of fights, but then a lot of shootouts too, because they was chasing me, trying to kill me. They like, nigga, you ain't even with me. And so I had got a reputation for being like aggressive in the community. So a murder happened in my neighborhood, and they couldn't find out what type of, they didn't have no real evidence on what happened in the crime. Into Thomas, Kenneth Boudreaux and Thomas Petak, and they were some of John Burge's cronies. They identified a incident where I had a fight with a guy, and I kind of roughed him up pretty good. And so him and his mother filed police reports against me, and they came to interrogate me for the fight and ended up arresting me for first-degree murder.
Now, Burge was the chief police detective in Chicago in the 90s who was notorious for torturing guys and getting confessions out of them, beating confessions out of them. And a number of his cases have been reversed, and a number of, I think he was the subject of some lawsuits. I think he himself was ultimately convicted of something, but he died a few years back. But so you encountered him, huh?
Not him personally, but some of his cronies, some of his team out of Area 3, 39th of California.
Right, that was the notorious place.
Yeah.
What did So what took place when they actually arrested you? What happened?
So they arrested me for the murder. They arrested me for the fight, and they ended up interrogating me. So I told them I want a lawyer. I want to see a lawyer. They like, okay, we got you. We'll let you see a lawyer. And then they put me in a lineup, and the victim brother didn't identify me. I had on regular street clothes like everybody else because I just got arrested and got into the system. But the police was bent on getting me, so they took me and put me in the county jail. Took me to a thrift shop around the corner from the 39th Street police station and found me a pair of blue khaki pants. But then took me out of my.
Supposedly like the guy they were looking for or something? Or like why did they put you in?
That part I don't know. To this day, I never really like thought about that. But what I did know is that they put me in the IDOC shirt. My lineup picture is an IDOC shirt flipped over, but it's clear that this is an IDOC shirt. You know.
Yeah.
And then
Illinois Department of Corrections.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then they brought me back another day and put me in that same lineup. Then they arrested one of the guys that was also a part of my case, who was on the scene when I was fighting the other dude. And so the police report was against both of us. And they arrested him. And now I wasn't in the police station with him, but what he later told me is that they pulled the gun out and put a bullet in it and kept spinning it and clicking it at him, telling him, sign a statement against me, sign a statement against me. And he ultimately did. And so it wasn't until the statement was signed that they put me back in the lineup with the IDOC shirt. And then they got a mirror, a reversible mirror, but you can see, because there's a light up over the mirror, you can see it in there. And the dude ended up picking me out of the lineup after that.
And based on that, they charged you and
Yeah.
convicted you, and you served 15 years.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Shit, I'm angry. I didn't like it.
Nah, man, hold on.
I was upset. Shit, I went through a whole series of violence when I got in there, because for me, injustice don't sit right in my spirit.
Yeah.
And so I ended up getting into the police and spending 7 years in SEG for fighting the police. I would do anything I could to hurt one of them every time they came past my cell. They put me behind a steel door where I can't spit on them, I can't throw shit on them, I can't do nothing. I spent that 7 years in Pontiac SEG.
You know, just like to hear you speak on that, like you talking about going to prison at what age?
I caught my case at 17 and I went to prison at 18.
So being incarcerated at 17 years old, a child, for something you didn't do. And see, the thing is, what people don't understand, like, okay, it's over with now. So why, I'm out of prison now. Why would I keep the lie going if I'm lying? I'm telling you that I didn't do this. And I had to go to prison for 15 years. Whoever killed this person was still out there. Like, so no justice was served at all. It was complete injustice. Overall, you just took a child off the street that was acting bad, fighting, had some run-ins, but never killed nobody.
My judge at the time was Michael P. Tooman, and my attorney was arguing that the police wasn't looking for evidence. They was looking for a person. And I use the phrase "any nigga will do." When they come to back then, when they was arresting people and a crime happened, they just want to clear the books. Any nigga will do. And so when my lawyer was arguing to the judge that the detectives had compelled my co-defendant to give a statement against me, the judge, his verbal words was, "Why would the police frame Mr. Evans, right?" And the lawyer like, "Well, I don't know why they did it, but they did it." And so later, if you Google Thomas Petak and Kenneth Boudreaux, especially Kenneth Boudreaux, who was the main character in my case, they had a 2-week editorial on him in the Chicago Tribune about all the cases he's fixed. And he's never been censured. Today, he's a DEA agent, unless he retired.
Okay, he was the detective?
Yeah, he was
case?
yes. And Thomas Petak. But both of their cases, both of them had cases, so many cases, especially Kenneth Boudreaux, overturned.
Right. No, I mean, and first of
For
all,
torture,
Chicago
coercion.
spends like $300 million every couple of years on settlements for false convictions, also for abuse situations. But hundreds of millions of dollars. I saw some figure, I think it was over several years, or something like $700 million in the last 5 or 7 years, something like that.
Yeah, and I got,
So it's crazy.
When you go in there, and what's really ironic is this. there are a lot of young black and brown young men that go in the prison system at 16, 17, 18, come out at 30, 40, 50, 60. Jimmy Soto and David Ayala, they just spent 50 years in prison, and they just got released. And the common thread is that all of these young men had the same police stations or the same group of detectives or the same, and yet even today, when you think about in California with the Ramparts division.
Yeah, the big scandal out there in L.A. Yeah.
Yes. What they did is they ended up, because of the torture and the coercion and the murders was so widespread, that they did like a blanket clemency for all those guys.
Yeah.
You know, when you're dealing with police who systematically torture people, and then they have to, and then the system already knows and they identify that these guys have had a history of doing this. Why do these young men have to come singly one by one and say, "Hey, they did it to me too. Hey, they did it to me too."
Right, and make every case go from beginning to end.
And to me, that's another form of torture. That's another injustice, you know.
Because in reality, is as a city and government, this your fault for even having this person still on the force. So if you made that mistake, you know, sometimes you have to bite the bullet and say, okay, well, we made this kind of mistake. We didn't pay attention to it early in the first couple complaints and really dig into it a little bit more, because you could have actually stopped and saved lives that have been ruined. You're talking about spending, come on, man, 15 years in prison, 7 years in segregation.
Now, no one ever, the cops don't apologize, the prosecutor doesn't apologize, the judge doesn't apologize. Nobody ever says, okay, we were wrong. What they'll say is something like, you know, well, we withdraw the charges, you know, the evidence might have been tainted, but we're not admitting that you were innocent.
But not only that, you had state's attorneys who systematically rubber stamped these processes. Mayor Daley was a part of that. Mayor Daley was a prosecutor at the time. He was a part of that.
He was the state's attorney in the 80s,
during the Burge's tortures and confessions and things like that. Nobody ever spoke his name because of the politics. Yeah. And you know, he was complicit in that because he prosecuted those cases. Jack O'Malley, he prosecuted those cases. You know what I'm saying? And nobody spoke their name. And then the sad part, recently there was a situation in the projects where this black officer had made a couple of people confess and tortured them, or had some crooked stuff going on with him. And they went back and took his whole log. They let 200 people go.
Oh, Ronald Watts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Burge has hundreds of people.
Well, a lot of his cases have been reversed, but probably not nearly all of them. Not yours, obviously.
But a lot of the cases of Burgess, they was far more heinous. These detectives put cattle prods on young men's testicles. They beat them with phone books and baseball bats and you know, all sorts of torture. You know, inhumane things.
What they do to Jackie? What they do to
the cattle prod, Jackie Wilson.
Wilson.
But I'm saying
what did they do to him so everybody know what they did?
I mean, they tortured him.
You know him personally.
Yeah, they tortured Jackie.
And what did he tell you?
He said they put cattle prods on his private. But the point is that the actions of John Burge was far more egregious than this one officer.
Than Ronald Watts, yeah.
And man, people still fighting to get out.
How does this whole experience inform your work now? What do you say to young guys?
It made me a champion for justice because I hate injustice. I abhor injustice. I don't care how simple it is. I hate it. You know what I'm saying? That's what going through what I went through did for me. It made me hate injustice. You know, the mistreatment of anybody. I hate it. I don't care how simple it is. If we stand in the line and a kid in the line first and somebody just walk up and I'm going to say something. Man, get out the way. This brother was here first. Wait your turn. So that, for me...
Even little everyday injustices.
It don't matter.
Yeah.
You know, some that's, when I think about the history that we got, you know, and we never talked about this. I kind of put some things together. I knew some of the backstory, but I ain't know everything. And I know it's some stuff that we ain't talking about right now, but I'll say this, though. One thing that always struck to me, we would have young guys that we deal with, and they'll get locked up, and you would be like, we got to go get them. You know what I'm saying? Like let's put the bond money together right now and go get them, so they wouldn't spend a night. And I'm like, bro, nah, he hard here. Let him, he might need to sit for a little. You like, nah, let's go get him. So what you saying make right now, it kind of put some meat to the bones for me with why you was doing that all the time,
Right.
So
For me, it's personal when it comes to community violence intervention. For me, it's personal. I don't care about no accolades. I don't care about no publication of. Probably got the worst website out of everybody. That's in the CVS
I saw it.
profession.
It was pretty good.
Nah, it ain't the best. But for me, the ground game has to be for real. It can't be a joke.
Well, talk about LTO because that's what we're doing here. This podcast is called License to Operate. Talk a little bit about what that really means to you and what it means in Englewood.
It means being your authentic self, helping from a place that's given, not doing it just to be seen to men. I know a lot of the situations that I found myself in, had I been a part of some organization or community network that helps young men who didn't have fathers growing up, my outcome probably would have been different because I wouldn't have put myself in the situation to be targeted. So I think that for me,
Did you not have a mentor when you were growing up?
no, I didn't. I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. Now, you can live in a household, and my mother had 9 kids. All of us chose different paths, but only one of us did something that was like straight positive their whole life, and that was my older brother. He started his own business. He became very successful at what he was doing. He had trucking companies, and unfortunately, he died from diabetes at 39. But we lived under the same roof, but everybody chose a different path. My other brothers, we all chose the street life, and we did different things with our choices, but we all chose the street life.
When you say you chose it, what do you mean? Like what? Like why did you choose it? Why did you say I want that? I mean, you had an older brother who showed you how to stay out of trouble.
But
right?
but you got to realize what it means to be an individual. Just if you just take it as basic as sibling rivalry, your older brothers don't want you hanging out with them.
I had an older brother who used to beat me up all the time.
Right, he don't want you hanging out, so he got his path, and eventually when you get the message that he don't want you hanging out with him, you know what I'm saying? You choose your own path.
You're gonna find another one. Yeah.
But that has nothing to do with like your work ethic and things like that. Those are, for me, those are intrinsic. Those are things that come from you. Whatever you pick up in your development, those things come from you. And so I didn't have the drive to go to school, even though I was the smartest kid my mother had academically. I never did homework a day in my life.
Where were you in school?
I went to George Gershwin on 62nd and Racine, and now it's called Granville Woods before it closed down. And E-Man has it. Now they purchased it as a place they're going to do, I think, communities something. But E-Man owns the school. And then I went to Englewood High School.
I mean, the question I always ask is like, we know there's a pipeline of kids, right, and coming up, and some of them are going into the street life, and maybe some of them aren't, but a lot of them are. And how do we work with a lot of the older guys, right? We work with guys in their 20s and sometimes even older, right?
Right.
All of our own, but there's all these 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds and 14-year-olds who are coming up who nobody's, maybe not, we're not getting to them, right?
No. And, well, we trying to, but the reality is this. You have kids as young as 10 years old attending grammar school, elementary school, at age 10 years old negotiating for their safety. hanging out with social groups just because they know that either you're gonna be a part of what we're doing or you're gonna be fooled. You know, we're gonna get you. We're gonna
Or
attack
you're at
you.
risk.
So you're at risk. So I have a son that's 11,
Mm-hmm.
and my son, I went to now my son. If you see him, man, he's the smiling kid. Everybody loves him. He in the house with BB guns, all kind of stuff. And so when I grab him, I say, bro, the things that you doing, I say, if you actually have one of the kids that don't have a dad, if they was in your position, would they stop hanging out with you and everything? They'll tell you, yeah. I say, but you trying to be like them. Why? And he said, because I don't want to get jumped on.
Your 11-year-old son's already dealing with this.
So you got kids, and him since when he was at 10, that's why I made the comment, guys as young as 10 are negotiating for their safety. So they willing to do whatever it takes, to just not get beat up. You know what I'm saying? And it's as simple as that.
So, Bilaal, you've been through a lot of different things in this work, man. One of the most tragic things you've been through a couple years ago, man. You got shot in the head, sitting in the car, right?
No, I was driving.
You was driving. Can you
Yeah.
speak to what took place?
So my work is primarily in Englewood, and I was dealing with some young men, and I was already in the house in the bed. So one of the young guys had court, and he needed some money for court. So I say, you got a Zoom or you got a Zelle or whatever? He like, no, I don't got that. So I said, okay, I'm gonna make it a trip with my family. So I got all my family in the app, and we got in the car and we started driving. We made it to the area. First, we went and got something to eat, and then we pulled up on the block. When we pulled up on the block, they was like living in a house that's abandoned. So at the time, it was the anniversary of some guys that they was into it with. They deaf, and so this was the time that they chose to slide. And so
The ops,
their opposition, yeah. And so as I knock on the door, I got my kids in the car, so we not finna be over here for no time. I gave him the money. I said, man, let me know how court gonna go. Let me know how court go after, tomorrow. He's like, all right, I got you. Turned around, jumped in the car. When I was leaving the car, leaving the house, leaving off the porch, they had just came back around, and they saw me get in the car from a distance. So they didn't know who I was. But all they knew was that this was the trap house, and I just came out of there.
So you just were walking out of the wrong house.
Right. And so I started driving
You
down.
were there just to give some guy some money for court.
Yeah.
And
I was driving down the.
you didn't even know it was the anniversary of the death of these people they were into it with.
No, I didn't know. I ain't gonna say I didn't know. I'm sure that it came on my doorstep, but I'm not, because everybody know me in the neighborhood. Like all of the guys that's diametrically opposed to each other. This is where I grew up. This is where they fathers, their mothers, whatever. This is like the neighborhood where I felt I'm safe. I'm safe right here.
How many of these guys are just inheriting these fights? Like,
what do you mean?
Like, your father was fighting his father, so you and me need to fight or whatever.
Nah,
generational.
I really want you to finish that part, because
it's not really like that. It's not really like that.
Talking, man. I'm just talking.
I'll go back to that, but let me finish the story. So as I leave out the house to go to my car, I drive down. I make a illegal turn. Don't tell the police. I made an illegal turn on 65th and Bishop to Loomis, and then made a right, hit Marquette, and started heading eastbound. By the time I made it to Morgan, they was on my ass. They had already started shooting the truck. They shot my truck up 20-some times.
You got your whole family in the car.
All my kids, everybody. But they shot from the angle to hit me, Mm-hmm. But, they ain't no marksman, so
no.
They could have hurt my babies,
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got shot in the head, my kids are screaming or whatever. And I don't know the seriousness of it, but I see blood like shooting down my neck, and it like won't stop. And I'm trying to calm them down. But at that point, I look across the street, and the car that's did the shooting turned around, and now they waiting to see me. You know, and so my child's mother jumps out the car with the car seat like y'all shot the wrong car. Y'all, we not no young people. Why y'all do that or whatever, right?
Your wife jumps out of the car,
Yeah, and
yelling at the guys with the guns.
Yeah, and when they synced that, they went the other way.
They knew they'd screwed up.
Yeah, but because I came from that block where I just came from, I had to let them know, listen, this just happened, and so y'all might be in danger because they went right back over there. As soon as they left for me, they went right back over there.
Looking for someone else.
Yes.
Wow.
They didn't say, okay, man, we just created a problem. Let us get up out of here. They said, no, we want somebody. So they went back over there.
And obviously, you recovered.
Yeah.
But
by the grace of God, I
How many
recovered.
times was you shot?
One. In the
One
back of
time.
my head.
Okay.
That's it. One shot in the back of my head. But if you see the bullet, how the bullets hit the car, they started spraying from the beginning of the car all the way up to the engine. It didn't stop. They hit me with a switch, so it was a lot of shots.
You one of those double seats, like a 4-door truck.
Yeah, I was in the Grand Cherokee L, so it was like a third row seat, and they hit from the back of the car to the front of the car.
And no one in your family was hit. How many were in the car with you?
5.
How long? When did that happen?
December 2021 or 22. 21. December 21.
Just remember that. I remember that came across and they like, man, Bilaal got shot in the head, man. That was, a lot. I personally was sick, like, man, bro, it just did something like, man, damn. Because we know you know what I'm saying? So whatever it was, it just, when you doing this work, you don't expect one of us to like get it, but it can happen because of the element that we dealing with. I don't think a lot of people understand that part.
Yeah, and again, I prefaced my conversation by saying I'm done. I'm on the lower level of it because I really want to see change, and so I deal with the young people like directly, personally, every day. They bullshit. I see them out away. I call them on it, whatever. But so what ended up happening is that when I got shot, and they went back to retaliate, they car got shot up. They got, they drove off or whatever. And so, they talked to each other. They was like, man, go pick your mans up. Say, y'all shot the wrong motherfucking guy. Y'all really finna die type deal. And so I intervened like, nah.
So you
found out who done it. As soon as I left the hospital, I found out who done it. I stayed in the hospital for like 3 hours.
So you know right now who did it?
Of course.
Was there an arrest?
No, sir. That's not what we do.
Did the police talk to you about it?
No, sir. I don't talk to the police about crimes. It's not my job to solve crimes. No disrespect to no family or no victims of gun violence, but it's not my job to solve crime. That's not the field I'm in. I'm in the field of helping to restore young black men.
And prevent crime.
Right. I know. But you were a gun violence victim in this case.
I was.
But you just decided you weren't going to press charges. You weren't going to try and have them arrested. Nothing.
Mm-mm. Even if I would have died, my family already know that that's not what we do.
Mm.
In any war, and I feel it's a war on gun violence, there's gonna be martyrs. Any war is gonna be martyrs.
And is this sort of the old no snitching kind of thing that you grew up with or something?
Not so much no snitching. Of course I don't believe in that, but it's not about not snitching. It's about using the opportunity, using the incident to create opportunity for healing. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I see it.
If you can just think of it, because I can hear what you're saying, Pete. But this is what I'm saying. If you think about a guy that was in prison for 15 years for a crime that he didn't commit. I remember being in prison for 8 years, and I thought, man, the last thing I wanted, my worst enemy, I wouldn't put in here, right? Because of the feeling you get, and I did the crime. I can only imagine not doing the crime and any kind of, calling the police is, the police have a position. And then there's some people that got another position that's not opposed to the police, but you got a lane over here and this another lane right here. And, these lanes just don't intersect in that sense. It's a high by, hey man, do your thing. That type of thing. I feel like I said before, the position that a lot of us that came from the street is we trying to prevent crime from happening. Would you say that be the case? And then the position of the police is to solve crime on their end, however they get
after
it done.
happens.
When crime happens, if that takes place, that's what you get paid for. Right. Would you say that or not?
And I would. Well, I wasn't. And also let's keep it keep it real. I wasn't the target. I was a mistaken identity. I wasn't the target of their crimes or whatever. I wasn't the person that they was looking for.
Right. I mean, in theory, there is a relation. You and I, we all know that in the neighborhoods we work in, the percentage of shootings that get solved is very, very low, right? 19 out of 20 non-fatal shootings don't lead to an arrest.
That's only, and I'm gonna keep it real. That's only because back when I got arrested in those days, the police never cared about evidence. They never cared about who actually did nothing. They never thought about that. They just said, we want to clear this case, so who's a likely target of our BS? And so because of that, the laws changed. In particular, they brought the cameras in for interrogations, I believe, around the time when the young lady, Ryan Harris, got killed, and they arrested those young boys and had those young boys to confess to ejaculating in her and all that when their bodies couldn't produce semen at the time. Once the people got to doing the investigation and the scientific evidence was brought to the light, and so those confessions was deemed, coerced confessions,
right.
And so they instituted the cameras in the interrogation rooms now. And so now any type of person that's get arrested for murder, they have to be interrogated under the camera. And any juvenile interrogated for murder had to have an adult or someone of a guardian present during the interrogation of the case. So now they starting to utilize the proper protocol in arrest. Because back then, if somebody said you done it, they gonna come beat your motherfucking ass until you say you done it. Or they gonna hold you 72 hours and let you go, then find somebody else who they can beat their ass and say they done it.
Now, do you think it's happening less than it used to today?
Yes, without a doubt.
Yeah.
That's why the cases can't be solved. That's why the cases aren't solved. They don't got nothing to do with witness evidence, witness tampering, witness fear, and none of that. They just getting due process.
When you think about our work, we're with Chicago Cred, Restorative Project. What makes you feel hopeful about that we can reduce this gun violence? Chicago still has more gun murders than every other city in America.
What I think is what is hopeful is addressing each issue at its core. That's what we at the Restorative Project say. And as long as we can continue to identify the root cause of each and every young man's challenge and his trauma and we'll reach triumph in our work in helping them to root out those issues. So as long as we looking at the core of what's going on with these young people and dealing with them from that lens and not just a blanket, everybody, one size fits all, we'll be able to help. See, what we don't understand is that there's an old saying that it takes a village to raise a child. But when the children in the village are feeling ignored, they'll burn it down to feel its warmth. And so we're witnessing when you see these young kids downtown where they're not allowed to go, they burning it up. That's a form of rebellion.
The teen trends you're saying.
Yes.
They're just rebelling.
Yeah, because they don't think about this, and we're gonna talk about something that people don't really look at when you think about these young men. We grew up from the children of church members, even if we didn't go ourselves, we grew up the children of church members that had a spiritual lens. These young men don't identify with a spiritual lens. They don't even say, I swear to God, I'm going to do this to you. They say, on them niggas, or on my brothers, or on folk them, or on. So they're transforming their sense of a higher power to their peers. As opposed to thinking about God, these guys, because now they can believe in these guys, because these guys saying that when we go, we slide into the death. We're going to do what we're going to do. They're not taught about God. They're not talking about spirituality. They're not talking about a higher power sitting in the space or sitting in the skies that can make things happen over time. Well, so they believe in their friends and their cohorts and their partners more than they believe in anything, even to the detriment of their families and their children and their women. Yeah. The women don't understand this love for your friends. They don't understand it. But it's just another way of saying we've been through, or we never had God because it was never taught to us. So we just gonna believe in each other.
Yeah, if that's what's right in front of you, if that's what you can touch, if that's what you know, and you know, it's hard for someone to say, no, I got this other thing over here. I know it doesn't have a whole lot to do with your everyday life, but believe in it, right? And the guy's like, I don't know, man. I mean, but you know, Ali's been telling me that, you know, there's a lot more young guys now converting to Islam on the South Side, and you know, in African American community. He's talking about a lot of growth. You seeing that?
Not where I'm from.
No, not in Englewood as much.
No.
But you worked with Iman, right?
I did. Yep.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm Muslim.
You're Muslim.
I am.
Okay. When did that happen? In prison?
In prison, yes.
Yeah.
I became Muslim in 2001.
And why did that happen? Like what happened to you that made you say?
Well, I went through a myriad of changes. I told you I was very angry about my circumstances.
Yeah. And
I started reading all type of books. I started reading Blood in My Eyes, Soledad Brothers by George Jackson, Soul on Ice, Eldridge Cleaver. I've been through the Nation of Islam way of thinking. I've been through the Black Panther Party way of thinking. You name it, I've done it. Christianity, Hebrew, Israelite, but Islam kind of stuck on me.
Yeah.
Because Islam appealed to my humanity. Something that I felt that I had taken from me when I was treated the way that I was treated in this system. And so it helped restore my humanity. See, it's hard when we talk about change. We look at material things and feeding and giving them the basic Maslow's hierarchy of needs to help them, because it's very difficult to unharden your heart. That's a process, bro. And who got the time to do that?
Yeah, and it doesn't happen overnight, right?
But guess what? I believe in that. I believe that's how you do. That's how you change. I make a decent salary in violence prevention. I only spend a third of it for myself to pay for my bills and to pay for my kids. Everything else I give to the community. I pay phone bills from prison calls every day. I send money to at least 13 people every month. I pay lawyer fees. They don't come from funding. I pay lawyer fees to get young men out of jail and/or, whatever the circumstances from a legal standpoint. These are the things. And while I'm doing it, I'm talking to them about empathy.
Yeah.
And that's what changes them. That changes them more than anything.
All right. Well, I know you're tight on time, so we can leave it right there. But we appreciate what you. Yep. Same words. See, that we're starting to finish each other's sentences now. Man. See?
A marriage of the mind.
There you go. Appreciate you, Bilaal. Thank you for coming.
Appreciate you, brother.
No problem.
Love you, man.